Good morning, game changers. Welcome. Welcome to the end game. Today, God has something very important He wants me to share, and I'm going to share it. I've shared part of this before, but there's more He wants me to say. This is the prophecy. This is a prophetic word. This is speaking of your end days, but not only that, and something, unfortunately, most of you won't even do your research into what I say, and I hope you do. I really do hope you do, because this is the end of ways. Who I am is Juniper Bloom Mystique. I am an ascension master, master healer, and divine guide. That is the simplest way to say who I am. And as I was having my own awakening since 2019, I had a Kundalini awakening that was unwarranted, unexpected, meaning I didn't go to cause it. It wasn't something I'd set out to do. I didn't even understand what was happening to me at the time. I had a sudden awakening. Things started happening to and through me. I started getting messages from God that I needed to allow myself to be myself, accept every bit of who I was, that I wasn't like everybody else, and then change the world and allowing myself to be myself. And then I get to watch the world change. And that is what I did. No holds bar. Ever since I heard that, I just allowed what was happening to me to happen without hesitation. And I'm thankful that I did. I survived a very painful journey. It was not an easy journey. It was very, very painful. I did almost die on this journey at least 2 times. And my original twin flame, divine masculine, did die. Now I have a new one. And I'm hoping that maybe with this message, he will open his heart more to God. Because here is the thing. I have spoke many times over about who I was and what I was doing, and I've uploaded them for you guys to see on this channel. When I had my awakening, for those of you, some of you have already heard this, and some of you have not. I will warn you, do not bring judgment though, because it will hurt you. Okay, judgment is not of God. And so when you see people spewing negative comments or opinions that don't make sense because they don't do their homework behind them, or even to what they're saying or to who they're saying it to, it is very harmful to the heart and to the light of the one. And not only that, it cuts you off from God. So please do not bring that here. I do, however, ask you to open your heart and love. Unconditional love, understanding that the world around you has not been the same since 2019, basically. The whole world is changing right before your eyes. I did a video a few days ago where the last workshop that I did, the earth died, and I processed her death and to be reborn. And that's a part of what I'm going to talk about today. Who I am is quite complex. I am not like any of you. I am not a starseed and a light worker. It took me a long time to understand and to accept who I was. This whole channel that you find this video on is my own awakening journey. After I kept hearing words, I got an image of the Bible, and in it, words were popping out of pages. And I was shown that the Bible is not correctly written. It was one of the first things. I was also being guided to do healings on people, and I didn't even know what I was doing. I have never done them before. I was in psychology field, not healing. I wasn't playing with cards or anything like that at the time. This was all sudden and a mass awakening for me. After I was shown images of the Bible, I was shown images of Biden. And unfortunately, which was really disgusting, his skin fell off. And you could hear people talk about lizard people. Well, I always thought that was, I never necessarily thought that was untrue, because to believe we are the only species here is just silly. That shows you of your ego. We have to be not the only ones in existence. This is a vast beautiful world that we barely understand. And so when people would say there's lizard people, I would be like, well, possibly there is. And it would explain why they seem to be not of God. And so that wasn't too shocking, but it was still shocking to see. And all of these things took me a little while to process, to understand, and to be comfortable expressing what was happening to me. But God didn't just put these things through me and to me. He provided witnesses and those who were supposed to accompany me along the way. Unfortunately, most did not stay accompanying me. And a lot of people do get lost in the muck of sorrow and pain and misery. And worst of all, judgment. And judgment is not of God. So when the false Bible depicts God being in judgment, God having a judgment day, that is not exactly what is being said by God. God does not judge. It is you reap what you sow every step of the way. This is a karmic cleansing and a karmic purge. That is what the ascension is. The ascension is the return of Christ. Now, for those who don't know me, the things that I was doing, I started doing healings on people that I've never seen before. I knew what caused Parkinson's all of a sudden. I could see what was causing seizures, which were V's. And you don't have to believe me. I was healing heart diseases. I was repairing heart machines. I was doing things I had never seen done before. And these are miraculous. And when you think about, I can look back now and go, oh my gosh, that is biblical. To have a sudden onset awakening where I was doing miraculous things is beautiful and barely recognized. And then from there, I started doing things to the earth. Now, this painting right here, I did not paint. This was done by somebody else after my awakening. She did a reading on me. And this is what she saw when she went in my energy. Now, if you look over here, there's Saturn, and there's actually an angel with wings. It looks like an angel with wings underneath that. And then right here is all these bodies coming out of a portal of what looks like a hill, okay? Then you have the triangle with the eye. Then you have this angel trying to take me underneath it. This is all very relevant. And I always thought that this was my twin flame. And a big chunk of that still tells me that it might be. But he did die. I have a new one. And I hope that he opens his heart completely to the one. Because otherwise he will hurt him and he will hurt me. This painting ended up being more relevant than I ever thought that it would. And it took me a long time to understand what it meant. She mailed it to me. This is me. My hair really is that long, and I really was that skinny when I started this journey. Unfortunately, though, during this journey, I was attacked a lot. I spent a whole entire year fighting for my twin flame. And I'm going to read to you Revelations 21 because that's what Spirit wants me to read. He needs you to hear these things. And if you choose not to, you don't have to stay here. That's okay. Because these are relevant, okay? Because God did something miraculous for all of you, for all of humankind. And it was very difficult for me to do, to say the least. But also quite beautiful nonetheless. So Revelations 21 speaks of 12 gates in part of its main point. The other main point is that, and I'm learning this, I've never read the Bible before. As I've stated, it never felt right to me to begin with. And even God showed me that it was not all accurate. But he is pointing out what he wants me to say. And I read more of it last night and today. And it is quite relevant. It is relevant for humankind. It is relevant for those who will stay and for those who will go. Because as I've mentioned before, the ascension is a karmic base. It is you reap what you sow. Some will go and some will stay, and some will never know life this way. The ones who get to stay are not necessarily chosen. You all have the ability to hear and see God if you're of God at all. The thing is they can't go against your free will. All we can do is show you what has been done, where the keys lie, and how to ascend. But it is up to those to actually do it. And so far, I get a lot of judgment, a lot of backlash, and a lot of things that just can't ascend. And so I pray every day that people will open up to the words that I say, because I repeatedly show you and show you and show you and show you, but I cannot make you watch. And God cannot make you ascend. Jesus did not die for your sins. That is one of the biggest lies that they tell you. He also did not die on a cross. I'm going to show you how I know this. So my awakening happened. I started doing healings to people I'd never known. And then all of a sudden, Spirit's like, do Hertz music. So I learned how to create Hertz music. I taught myself everything that I do. Then they said, do workshops. And I was in this academy trying to understand angels and things like that, because these things were happening to me. I didn't have an awakening through them. I had my own awakening on my own time. And that is where I met this individual who did this painting for me before any of this even happened. And she didn't know what it meant either. She's like, this is what I saw, and I felt nudged to paint it, and she sent it to me. I was doing a healing exchange with one of their members when I was learning what I was doing. And in most healing exchanges that I do, I end up walking my own healing through. And next thing I knew, I sat on Saturn and I rose Atlantis with Hermes. That ended up being that depiction. That's Hermes and that's Saturn. I sat on the rings. I cleared my own contract after watching myself die there. I had said that I would never allow Atlantis to rise again in that contract because my DM had killed me by choosing a false goddess. That is actually the time of Adam and Eve. That was the time of Atlantis. So the stories that you are depicted are not exactly accurate. Then from there, I started doing things to the planet more and more in the workshops that I was teaching myself how to do. And I've shown you guys these things on my channel, and I'm going to show you where to look for those of you who are new. If this is a repeat, you should still watch again, because you might learn something this time you didn't see before. This is my YouTube channel. It began when Spirit told me to create it. Now I've had a lot more people come here, watch a few minutes of something, make judgment, and leave. And I will tell you right now that maybe their heart's not open yet. Maybe it's going to take something massive for them to open it, and maybe they will return, and maybe not. It's through free will. So maybe only a few will make it to the new earth. Either way, I'm okay, because I know what I've done. I know how painful it was. I know how hard it was for me to bring these through and be honest with what was happening to me, because what do people do? They judge. So that is when I started uploading on this channel, was because Spirit said, do these workshops. Then they said, create a channel. And I argued with them. I'm like, there's tons of channels doing these things, Hertz music, and I didn't know this stuff was coming yet. And they said, but don't you worry, yours is different. And I said, okay. So I diligently did it. I'm not obedient. I am love, and I love God. So therefore, no matter how hard something was on the external, I always followed his nudges on the internal. Regardless if people judged me, mock me, or leave my side, and how lonely I am, regardless of losing my twin flame and having a new one hurt me just the same. I'm still pure to God. And can you say the same? What I do is not crazy. What I have done is very real. And I bring you the proof for you to see it. This one right here was in a Patreon healing. When I started doing these things, I would do them quickly because I didn't understand what was happening to me. It took me a while to process. It was all a part of my awakening journey. In this one, Jesus all of a sudden appeared in front of me at the end of my Patreon workshop for healing. I just thought I was healing people. I was, but in a bigger scale. It came through and I saw Jesus standing in front of me, and I'm like, but he's alive. I could see him, and I could see the sand around him. I could see his sandals. I could see what he was wearing. He looked parched. He looked starved. He was very skinny, and his skin looked like it was sunburnt with sand, you know? It was just leathery. And I was watching as I was him. It was if I was him, which makes sense to me now. But John the Apostle, who I didn't know who that was at first, I think in the video I was like, apostle? And the person I was with had to tell me who that was, because I don't study the Bible. I've never read it. I knew my whole entire life it was off, but I've always believed in God. So in it, I saw John the Apostle poison Jesus, and Jesus hesitated in taking it. It looked like Israel around Jerusalem. I'm not exactly sure. It could have been near Euphrates, because I know when I started clearing up the shadow, Euphrates started to dry. All of what I've done is clear the shadow of the fallen, the ones who went against God. Revelations 21 speaks of the 12 gates and more. And there's something important I have to read to you guys, but I have to explain to you who I am and what I've done. Because who I am is not normal. I am not a starseed, and I am not a light worker. I am not any of you. I'm separate. And that was hard for me to understand and to accept, but I accept it fully now. And I don't care if you bring judgment here. That only hurts you and removes you from the light of the one. And that is your choice. But I will ask you, keep your comments to yourself if they are negative, and you may go somewhere else. Or just watch for proof. And hopefully you might awaken even more. Because I'm not manipulating you. I'm not lying to you. I'm not looking for fame. I'm looking for those who are going to make it, because the end is near. We have less than 2 years left at this point. And I can prove that to you as well. You just have to look at the proof that I give you. It's not to manipulate you. I can already feel that in the energy. People's egos might start to take over, and the shadow will convince you otherwise. It is your job to listen to your heart, look for the proof yourself, and ask for spirit to show you. Because I'm not lying. What I've done is very real. And so if you're true in your heart, you should be able to see it. I saw a comment on this channel one time that people can have discernment. And if you were truly in God's light and able to really discern, discernment means see no evil, speak no evil, and hear no evil. So if you're coming here speaking evil or judgment and speaking of discernment, that's contradictory. Please don't do that. Watch the proof that I give you and diligently watch it. That's all you have to do. But that doesn't guarantee your ascension. I know this because now I know I hold the keys too. And I'm going to tell you what that means. I have one set I brought about all of Revelations, and that is true. And God wants me to show this to you, because those who choose to hear, those who are loyal to him and can see who Jesus really is, just might be able to make it through. Because the new earth is not for man who don't choose God. Okay? So in this one, I freed Jesus' soul. He was poisoned by John the Apostle eating bread and wine. It was in both, just in case he only took one. They poisoned the bread and they poisoned the wine, which is why you will go to church sometimes and they will shove wine and bread down your throat and call it communion, anchoring you further into darkness. Okay, that is when he died. It took him 20 minutes to die a painful death of poisoning by strychnine or cyanide. I think it was strychnine. I can't ever remember. It's in the video. It's at the end of that workshop part. So you actually have to watch these things, but everything I say is relevant, but most of it does occur towards the middle to the end of all the videos. That tripped me out in itself. I was like, what is happening? I knew I'd already rose Atlantis. I was doing all these things I didn't understand. And then I saw Jesus and I'm like, who am I? Right? Like, who am I? And like most people, when I free their soul, the soul goes up. It goes up to the skies. This one did not. And not all that I have freed have gone up. Some went somewhere else through the portal in which I opened, which was the Sphinx, which is not normally named the Sphinx, and that'll be another video. After Jesus's soul was set free, I saw it rose up after he died. There was no cross. There was never a cross depicted. They do that for a reason, because the true cross is the Ankh. That's what the Egyptians would try to tell you. But because it was shaped the way it was, is because they took your masculine away from you. They took your God away from you. They murdered him, and I didn't get the full story yet. That was just part one. Now, there's a reason it started out with just me, And then halfway through my journey, I combined with my DM, or at least I was supposed to, because I began waking him up, and his name originally was David. I don't know the new twin flame. He has not yet stepped forward for God. And this is what I mean, is if the twin flame cannot step forward, we have to wonder why most are not. It's a sad day when most people refuse to see that of the light of God, or who and what I've done. Then from there, I saw his soul rise, and it went into the Garden of Eden and became the most beautiful flower I've ever seen, which makes sense to me because all of Earth is going to become the Garden of Eden. And I have said this on many of my videos. Then I started clearing Mount Shasta, which is right here. This was part 1. There are 2 parts to almost everything I have done. Part 1, I started clearing Mount Shasta, where all these bodies rose. All these bodies rose from Mount Shasta. Like, do I have a pointer on here? I have a pointer when I do my courses. Let's see. Do I have a pointer? I don't have a pointer. In this painting, you can see the bodies rise from Mount Shasta. That is what I began doing here. Okay, and I didn't realize the painting was this until a while later. So I started clearing it. There was a triangle with the eye. I didn't know until part 2 of Mount Shasta clearing. And the root chakra, I had to start to cleanse from there. And then I activated a pyramid in Fiji. What does it mean when I activate pyramids? I use my light. Remember I said I had a Kundalini awakening? You might have heard me say that. It rose for this purpose. It is my light that I used to activate all pyramids and rebuild the crystalline grid underneath them, because that is the Earth's power center. The Earth should not have these poisonous power lines on top of her. And you're about to see all of this go down. Then I started clearing the sun, the moon, undoing the false concept of time. Prometheus came in and said, he is the God of humankind. He took the earth, rotated it, put it back together. I've done so many things, you guys, and this is just a very quick depiction of all of that I've done. In this one, I started undoing contracts all the way back to Abraham Lincoln. I have undone so many dark contracts. And I didn't know yet fully what happened to Jesus or Mary Magdalene, or the fact that they were twin flames that needed to come back together. That was the full resurrection of Christ, which came after I began my twin flame journey part. I activated many pyramids all over the globe, Myanmar, Machu Picchu, Peru, Budapest, Thailand, Nigeria, Botswana, Congo, Kilimanjaro, under the water in Fiji. And I undid the God portal, which was blocked. So Mount Shasta was never filled with light. If you've anchored into it, you need to purge that. And I haven't seen one person purge it yet. People come with judgment, with haste, and mocking God. And it's because that you have been, that veil, that's what I undid. Okay, I removed the triangle with the eye back to Fiji, which was the portal of God, portal of the gods. And I moved the root chakra back to Fiji and cut off life support to California. That finalized in part 2 of Mount Shasta clearing, which again, people don't want to see truth, and you won't make it through. Not only do you have to see who God is, what I've done, and what is really happening, because that is the gift that God gave you, was the return of Christ, which is what I've been bringing about the entire time. And it's all a part of my awakening. I cleared the Nile. Here's portal activations, Nigeria, Botswana, and Zimbabwe. Okay. My DM, I kept saying my DM. Okay. My DM were supposed to come together and do things in both lights. But unfortunately, even the masculine does not want to listen to God. And I don't know why. It's dangerous to not to. And you can mock me all you want. You can believe that I don't know what I'm talking about, that I'm crazy, that I'm just this and I'm just that. And that is because you are not watching the proof. I can prove everything I do. Work with me once, but most won't. The healing sessions I do are very real. I don't need to know you. I don't need to ask questions. I didn't even need to be with you. I would do them remotely. So everything I've talked about and done is on this channel. I started waking up my twin flame. God started calling him forward. I didn't realize I lived 2 doors down from him because I was moved after my awakening. Then I also took us into 7D. Then my twin flame and I were attacked. Then they told us who we are, the leaders of the 144,000. The return of Christ, the return of God's. God married my original DM and I in this one, and I opened up the God portal. That's how it was supposed to play out. I was supposed to undo the false veil, undo the false concept of time, move the sun and the moon, which is also Sekhmet and Horus, which is also another lifetime I've had. So my lifetimes are Adam and Eve, Jesus and Mary, Magdalene, and Sekhmet and Horus, and it all plays out on this channel because that is what I undo and heal and repair. I also talk about the north, the east, the south, and the west, and having to repair back from the north to the west. And when I did the Nile, after my DM was attacked, he died on August 30th of last year. I got a new walk-in DM who was called forward. This was when right before my DM died. And I said, what does it mean that he will not be here and the twin flames will unite by me? I didn't know all of what that meant, but it's all right here. What does it mean for my DM to no longer be? We kept calling him forward. I kept begging and praying and hoping that he would just simply love me. Now this goes with Revelations 21, which I am about to read to you, which God wants you to hear. Only those who can truly hear God and believe the gifts that he gives to you are more awake and aware. So pay attention to how far people are truly awake and what you can see. And if I'm sparking judgment in you, it's not of God at all, or your ego or anything, heal it. But you must know how to do that. And I keep trying to tell people, the healings that I do are not normal. When I heal your shadow, it's not like any shadow healing you will ever have. The things that I have done are not like anything you will ever have or ever experience before, and nobody can do those like that. No. Can other people help you heal? To a certain degree. When I cleared the Nile, they told me of the 12 gates. They talk about the gates of abundance and how there was actually 13, not 12, which goes with me needing to close off the north to the west. Or wait, from the west back to the north. I kept saying that I need to close the west back to the north. That's because they cut off the gates of heaven from you guys, which is the 13th gate. Ever wonder why they make the number 13 so unlucky? Or an evil number? Oh my, right? That's why. All of this has been my awakening. I'm processing. I'm trying to understand. In this one, I undid the White House. I undid another false contract, and I burned Archangel Samael. Wait, in one of them, I burned Samael. I think it was this one. But I'm always taking out something, some fallen angel, something, and returning crystals back to where they go. I saw underneath the White House and what's really there and who they are and what they do, and that they're actually associated with the British monarchy. And that is who created the V. Nothing to do with China, other than we owe them money. This is part 2 into taking us into 7D, where they told me we actually went into Pleiades Galaxy. You don't have to believe me. Very few people watch the work that I do. Most mock it in truth. And let me tell you, that's not a good thing to do. But God tells me people need to see sometimes. Words are just words. But that's because they're so ingrained in that false veil. Okay. Because if you were truly pure of heart, you would be able to see and hear what I say. But not only that, you'd be healing all along the way and getting through those gates. People think that they can do this on their own. They think that I don't know what I'm talking about. And that is just simply not true. Because this wasn't something I created. It happened to and through me. And this one, I show you my very first workshop. It was more like spell casting. And I set the stage and I said, 1 by 1, 2 by 2, they will rise to be seen, and then they will all fall. United we stand, and united they fall. And that's what you're about to watch. And this one, they told me about the Ankh, the true cross. Okay. I didn't even know. And I also said the submersible. They asked me to say if the submersible would be found. I said it imploded. And then the next day, that is what they said. So you can actually watch these. They prove to you who I am the whole entire way. The GMO elimination apocalypse phase, it's not a conspiracy. Here's why. I did something with those as well. I went around plucking those around the time that I put money through the portal. When I activated the Sphinx, that was the portal of time, which was created by Sekhmet, which is who I learned I was when I activated Ecuador. I had no idea. They told me in the beginning, and I keep trying to tell people this, and they won't watch the proof. So then here I realized what really happened to Jesus. Okay, they murdered him, and then they got Mary Magdalene to take his blood in a cup, and they wrote a false contract out of his blood. And that is when your cross broke. And that is when they would depict God on a cross and mock God in front of your face and get you to eat and drink the poison of what killed him to constantly keep that contract in place. They got all of you pretty much to sin against God. Now it's time I read the book of Revelations. And again, you can watch these. These are workshops. You have to watch them. They were very painful for me. In Mount Shasta Part 2, my DM didn't show up and I had to do it by myself, and I was not supposed to. So it was extremely painful. And I cried in some of it, and very few people want to watch it. And in this one, I burned Samael. He died. Archangel Samael is the original fallen angel. Those of you call him Lucifer, or El Diablo is the way it came out from spirit. And I like that because I'm so just would love an accent, and I don't have one. So now I need to read to you the book of Revelations, because that is what God really wants you to know. But I had to show you who I am and how it came through to me, and it's so much more layered than that. So that is not the entirety of it. Really quick, I'm going to show you one other thing, okay? Because on my channel, you only get a small depiction. You don't get the entire thing. The other thing, God had me create the path to righteousness. For those who truly, truly wish to go through the gates, must pass through this way. I hold the keys. That's not a joke. I've walked 4 people through, including myself. And in order for me to do it, I mean, I was supposed to be, the first one through, but I had to have an exchange. So I had to have one of my alchemy students do it with me, and I didn't know it was coming. And so in that, I clear your contract. We got to see hers first, which was actually the same time, like days apart. I got to clear her contract because she healed it all. She went through my workshop. She did the work. She actually noticed in doing my alchemy academy and all of the work that she was doing that she had major purposes she didn't realize she had. Okay. And then doing my exchange, she, these are my courses. You actually seeing it from my perspective, not the public's, but there's a reason. So when you walk through the gates, I do a heart reading. I say this to you all the time. I have to measure your heart space. And most people right away go into their ego and judgment and be like, ha, she's full of shit. Well, I'm not. Okay. This is a heart review. You have to have a heart review because all of your lifetimes have been combined into this one. I've said that throughout the work that I've been doing. All of your lifetimes have been combined to be measured so that they can know what karma you have to clear. You have to clear all karma back to the beginning of time, not just this lifetime. So I hear so many people go, I'm clear. I made it through. And I'm like, okay. I can read your heart space. I know you have karma. Everybody does. So those contracts that all these spiritual people got us to push to eliminate was a detriment, and they hurt some of you. Can you repair that? Yeah, not on your own, though. You just can't. It has to be through God, which is what I can do. So I read your contract. If it's all cleared, you become purified. Your heart space is purified. We use the violet flame and the white flame, which I carry the white flame. They showed me that when I cleared Atlantis. And parts of those are when I took us into 7D, one of those. They showed me drowning there, and they showed that I was the white flame. When I died is when everything changed. Okay. And I died many times. I came back to fix it many times. Jesus and Mary Magdalene, Sekhmet and Horus. Okay. This began at Adam and Eve time. All right. So the path to righteousness truly is much more complex than what you would realize. It is. It truly, truly is. Okay. This is all, it's not even part of it. That's what I'm trying to show you. Just because you look at my channel doesn't mean you know anything at all of what I've done. It's just a very small, minute glimpse of what I've done. It actually takes quite a long time to go through it all. Okay. I'm trying to get you to the courses. I don't know why sometimes it could be so difficult to do that. Oh, you little booger, give it back, give it back. Like, where did it go? Give me the option to click on you, yo. There we go. So I just want to show you, okay? I did a thing where I have to awaken you, because even if you think you're awakened, you're not. Doesn't matter how far awake you think you are, there's more awakening to do, because that veil was so ingrained in you and all of your ancestors and every lifetime you've ever had. Then I teach you what the shadow is, how to spot your shadow. And each one of these has healings where I draw it out. So I draw out your entire collective and individual shadow. In the collective shadow one, you can see me undo the collective shadow, and I take down one of the first fallen angels. Where this one, I actually had to rip him out of his body, and it was like a skin suit that fell. It was gross. And that is when fire started as well. And I do believe that is when the Euphrates River really started drying up. It may have started when I first started doing the work. I'm not sure. Then I teach you how to call your power back. And not only do I do that, I heal you into calling your power back. Okay. And this one is irrelevant, because in order to get through the gates, this is what you have to do. And you can try to do it on your own all you want. Lion's Gate portal ascension. This is where, and major trauma release. Okay. Accepting Christ light and portal activations DNA, because you go through the portals and you have to clear your karma through them. You have to know what that is, and you can't let the shadow reintegrate, because I draw it all the way out, right? So you can't let it reintegrate through each one. You have to draw it out first. If you go through the portals with your shadow and your karma in play, you get a kickback and you can't enter. So that's why you need to heal it and allow it to rise before you go through the gates. This is what I've done. This is what I'm trying to show people. This is what God's trying to show people. And that's why I hold the keys. Then Mount Shasta starts to come into play, part 1 and part 2. These are portals you have to go through. And just because I put them on my channel, you're not meant to heal in those. It has to be an exchange. And most people watch my work and throw judgment at it. And what would that do? That would make sure that you don't ascend. So it's protection for you. Then we have the Fiji portals. Okay. Past life, karmic healing. I take us to Sequoia several times to dump past lives. Okay. So I tell you, every life you've ever had has already been measured, and you're playing them out now. Releasing the darkness of the moon. There's a lot of those. Okay. Everything I have here is an hour, 2 hours, hour and a half long. Solar eclipse elimination, phase 1 complete. Elimination of the false concept of time. Ascension healing activation series. These are pyramid activations, and each one of these, remember, I've already drawn your shadow out completely. All your karma has been measured and brought to the surface to heal as you're going through these. Then you call your power back, and only then do you get your DNA activations. They are not just given to everybody here. And that's why all these people keep telling everybody, oh, just do this and no. Portal of time. Virus matrix removal. This is the entire matrix wall of the viruses. Garden of Eden portal, because the entire earth will be the Garden of Eden. These are when I brought down all of Christ's light, and the first one kicked our ass. Okay, I did it through the green rays, the blue rays, the yellow rays, the pink rays, the all of them. Violet rays, Golden Gate portal part 2, throat chakra opening and alignment, divine healing, and Rubin rays. The throat chakra, all of it is like a true serum. You can't tell lies. The new earth will not have murder or pain or anything, and I can see that now. I haven't even read to you the book of Revelations yet, but I have to show you what I've done, because everybody looks at my stuff and assumes, and assumptions can only hurt you. Resurrection of Christ, undoing the false Holy Grail, Jesus, Mary Magdalene, and body upgrade, CNS, DNA, and more. Taking us into 7D galaxy. These are all of them. Okay. Around the equator, portal activations, pyramid activities, okay, Ecuador, Colombia, Congo, the White House, British Columbia, Kilimanjaro, all of that. Clearing the Nile, Revelations 21, 2013, final mass, timeline purge, and another Sequoia. In this one right here, people always judge me when I say this. I'm actually ascending the angels too. That's who I am, okay? So I brought the angels here in this one. This is after I went through the gates. Once you go through the gates, you again dump everything you ever were, because it's a new start. You're reborn. You're either reborn here or somewhere else. And I'm going to read Revelations 21:2 that God wants me to say, that I didn't make up. In here, there's also one where I undo Atlantis, the Sphinx Pharaoh, and then Lemuria cleansing. So you can see everything I've undone, everything I've done. These are all the gates that you have to go through. But in order to get through them, you need to know how to call your shadow out completely. Because if you go through the gates with your shadow and your karma in tow, it kicks you back and you can't ascend. When I took the animals through the gates, which is what I keep telling people, I did it in a workshop. You can purchase that, actually. I'm lowering the price to a set price, and it is what it is. I've offered to give scholarships in people's name if they pay for it full price, and people just, and if it's money that stops them, I don't know why they would do that, because money doesn't matter. If you're so afraid to spend money in the new earth, it's going to be purged anyways. Okay. There's abundance. There should not be fear. The world is only crumbling for those who are in karma. So just as I said, when I took the animals through the gates, because I had to do all species on this planet as well, not too long ago, and I had people in my workshop all the time that do these things with me. They're witnessed and they're recorded, which is why I can share them with you. And Spirit told me to do all that, and it's a beautiful thing. Each time I would put them through the gates, there were 3 at a time, which speaks of Revelations 21:13, which talks about the north, the east, the south, and the west, and each having 3 gates. But they closed off the ones to heaven, which was the west back to the north, which is what I talked about when I did the Nile, and I opened up the 13th gate, which is the gate to heaven, and you can watch that workshop, the Nile. I posted it, but most people don't want to watch it because the first half is them giving me gifts. And then they put my feet in water, and I'm like, what's happening? And then they dried it up, and they said I was the queen of life. I was the one, not the chosen one. I am the queen of life. I am the one. Some of you are chosen ones, meaning you're hearing the call. And so God is like you. They see your heart. My DM was a chosen one, my new one. And I wish he would hear God's call, because that's painful. It's a detriment when people choose not to. Okay. Now his and me carry the eyes of Ra and Horus. But when I took the animals through the gates, there were kickback. And when there was kickback, some of them I could heal. Some of these animals were not created by God at all. Some were like petri dish creations. And so if they've done that to people, what does that tell you? Some were like different body parts put together. Some were DNA manipulations. And in the V, I found out that there was animal DNA as well. And it would kick these back. And in the kickback, I could heal some of them, but not all. And then in that kickback, karma would spew to where it belongs. Now, this last workshop I did, I told you the earth had died because I processed her death. I had to become larger than life. It was very painful. It felt like every bone in my body broke, and literally her essence, everything about her, all this death like rose and processed through me. It was so painful. It was like I had to open and crack, and it was horrible. I mean, it was beautiful, but it was very painful. And it's the same thing. There was karmic kickback. So those who have manipulated earth, have hurt earth, have treated her raw, will also have karmic kickback. Those who manipulated the animals will also have karmic kickback, because I could not repair them all. Some will have to be reborn and ascend back on this planet. But this is evolution. So I'm going to now read Revelations 21. Main point of Revelations is the reunion of heaven and earth as the descent of the new Jerusalem, unlike the old Jerusalem that was corrupted and dishonored by most of Israel's kings. The new Jerusalem would be ruled by a divine king and queen, where the Bible only says king. That's not supposed to be it at all. Remember, the north, the east, the south, and the west, all represented by 3 gates. But then they cut off heaven, which is the 13th gate. So there's 13. When I went through the Nile, it was another portal before I could even get to the gates of heaven. So here's what it says. Revelation, the age to come. Revelation 21. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the old heaven and the old earth had passed away, and the sea was no longer there. Now, I talked about Mount Shasta, that whole water, all the water is going to shift and move and change. Waterways are going to come in and engulf what is rightfully hers. Especially in San Francisco, I keep seeing that one. Also, I saw the holy city coming down out of heaven from God, prepared like a bride. Now, think about what I've done. When they say prepared but like a bride, beautifully dressed for her husband, I was the first one to awaken, Eve. I had to awaken my DM, Adam or David, who was asleep because he was so far into a low vibration. He was with fallen angels. Look at what they did to Jesus. They took his blood, wrote a contract. He was so far corrupted from the time of Adam and Eve. Adam chose the false goddess. It wasn't Eve. So I had to wake up my DM. So God prepared his beautiful bride, sent her down to heaven, dressed for her husband. And this is true because during my journey, they were trying to get me to unite with my twin flame, and they were teaching me how to do that. They're like, don't think about him, focus on you, do this, do that. And the next thing I knew, 222 came, and he and I, our souls went like this, whoosh, and he was aware, and I didn't know he was aware. He lived 2 doors down because after my awakening, I ended up having to move next to him. It was crazy times. It was not easy. Okay, I was made homeless on purpose, and I didn't know what was happening to me. I'm like, why is this happening? Why is this happening? I thought I was being punished, and little did I know I moved 2 doors down from my DM, and it was the worst apartment you could ever think about. And I had to wake him up, and I did. But then I spent a year fighting for his soul. He took off again with the fallen angels, and I almost died. They attacked me and attacked me and attacked me repeatedly. One of my graduates that was in my academy at the time for alchemy had to help heal me, and it was so painful. I can't even describe to you how painful it was, and I almost died a couple times. Okay, that is why in the end, after we freed his soul, woke him up, God said, now come home, filled him with light, and married us. That was that one workshop. And he still wouldn't go. He wouldn't budge. And the angels said, this is his final option. He had 1 week time to choose to come home, or he was going to die. And he chose not to come home because he couldn't see clearly. He never got away from the fallen angels. So then I got a walk-in DM who a few months later was called at Christmas time for the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And he never came. And still, it's been a year now. And again, I really wish people would listen to God, because it's more important than you know. If you're afraid of love, you can't ascend. So, prepared like a bride, beautifully dressed for her husband. I heard a loud voice from the throne say, see, God's Shekinah is with mankind, and he will live with them. They will be his people, and he himself, God with them, will be their God. That is who I am. I am the one. I am the queen of life. That's what they call me. I'm not joking, you guys. I'm not normal. And if you'd work with me, you would know this. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, because I'm not afraid to do that too. I do healings live on this channel also. There will no longer be any death. They will wipe away any tears from their eyes. I have to heal you. That's what I tell you. We have to heal everything you've ever gone through. Purify your soul and your heart. Remove all your karma, and that is your entry into the gates. And through that, you have to choose God, not the shadow. There will no longer be death. There will no longer be any mourning, crying, or pain, because the old order has passed away. And I just told you the final one I did is that the earth died. Then the one sitting on the throne said, look, I am making everything new. Also, he said, write, these words are true and trustworthy. And he said to me, it is done. I am the A and the Z, the beginning and the end. To anyone thirsty, I will give water free of charge from the fountain of life. And it said this too. You're not supposed to pay for electricity. You're not supposed to have to pay for water. You shouldn't have to pay for room and board and shelter. This is ridiculous. We should all be equals. We should all be safe. Sorry about the loudness in my neighborhood. It's actually really early in the morning. You get to hear the trash truck now. But this is very relevant because I've talked about this along my journey. And I'm only giving you some of all the work that it took me to do. It took me almost 4 years to do it all. He who wins the victory will receive these things, and I will be his God, and he will be my son. But as for the cowardly, the untrustworthy, the vile, the murderers, the sexually immoral, those involved with the occult and with drugs, idol worshippers, and all liars, their destiny is the lake burning with fire and sulfur. Now, when I saw the earth die, I don't talk about this a lot. When I processed her death, beneath my feet, she was exploding and burning, and water was taking back over. The second death, the one of 7 angels having the 7 bowls full of the 7 last plagues, approached me. And they said, come, I will show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb, my DM and I. He carried me off in the spirit of the top of the great high mountain and showed me the holy city, Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. And I keep telling you, I brought down the Garden of Eden. I rose the Garden of Eden, not brought it down, but I cleared it. And you have to be able to pass through that gate. It had the Shekinah of God, so that the brilliance was like that of a priceless jewel. Like a crystal clear diamond, it had a great high wall with 12 gates, but there's actually 13. Why would they keep that from you? Because the 13th is heaven. And if you watch me clear the Nile, I dry it blood dry. It turns blood dry, and then I dry it up. And I fix the crystal in the core from a black crystal to white. They thought they broke our crystal, but they did not. I fixed it. And then I said there's 13 gates, and through each 13 gate, you all have lessons. And then the north, the east, the south, and the west, I kept saying I had to complete the west to the north throughout my workshops. And there's gates between each thing, and that's where I opened up the 13th gate, was when I completed the west to the north. Making sense yet? Okay. The gates were names of the 12 tribes of Israel. Remember, there's 13 gates. There were 3 gates to the east, 3 gates to the north, 3 gates to the south, and 3 gates to the west, and 3 gates back from the west to the north is what this should say, but it stops there. The wall, the city was built on 12 foundation stones, which is what I talk about. That's what I opened, and that's why I hold the keys. You have to be able to get through each gate with your shadow outside of you. If it's inside of you, you may not be able to see clearly to choose right. Okay, and the angels are supposed to guard the gates. There's supposed to be apostles that were supposed to make it through with me. And the thing is some of the very few that did make it through with me know that when they started, they didn't see what their path was, what was coming. They had no idea. They had no idea. The one that I work with the most right now, she helped me clear Catholicism. She didn't know that that was her part of her purpose with me. She didn't know that. We cleared Salem together. She didn't know we were going to be doing that in the beginning. She had no idea she was even a healer. You don't know because you're not awake enough to know. You're not healed enough to know who you are. Okay. So then it says, it's going to take me a lot to read, so I don't want to read it all, but what is the age to come like? Okay, no eyes has seen it. It is not going to be as heaven as you think it is, where we're like spirit form. We're going to be people. That's what I told you. Heaven is now on earth, and you either get through the gates or you go somewhere else. You won't make it. Okay, in chapter 19 and 20, it talked about 1,000-year reign of King Messiah. Then there was a great resurrection and judgment of the wicked. 21, we're looking at the world to come. Okay, so 19 and 20 speak of the reign, 1,000-year reign, and judgment, the great resurrection and judgment of the wicked. Revelations teaches us that by this time in the world to come, we have physical bodies. At the same time, the world to come will not share the same physical characteristics of your planet today. And the other day I did the video stating that. Take the pictures that you see now, because she will change and morph, and she has her own karmic kickback. The world will either make you or break you. It depends on where you're rooted. Okay. So, and physical spirituality at this time is beyond our capacity to comprehend. It may be beyond your capacity to see that what I've done is real. Who I am is real, and I'm not like you. I hold the keys. I've walked very few through the gates so far. It is my gate. That's not a joke. I didn't realize this, okay? Conditions are set for the restoration of Eden as God intended. Did you see my portal through Eden? All of earth will be Eden. Jesus' soul went into a flower in the Garden of Eden. And God gave my DM his bride. I started the journey. I woke him up. I freed his soul. I cleared all darkness. I opened all gates. I closed off all 12 gates of darkness. And I opened up the gates of heaven. And I said, now it's your turn to rise. Now it's your turn to hear me, to see what you need to do, to heal, and to rise. And I will tell you right now that healing your entire shadow is not normal. You must Allow it to rise completely outside of you to make it through those gates to be able to see clearly. Because each gate is a testament to the one. Each gate is a test of your pride. Each gate is a test of your ego, your judgment, and your soul. And if you have karma, you have not healed, you have not recognized, you have not cleared, or you eliminated those contracts, you can't make it through every gate. God told me not everybody will make it through every gate. God also told me, don't have expectations, that sometimes it takes something massive for people to see the truth. So if it takes you watching California go down or watching something massive come through to be able to align it to the work that I did, then all I ask of you is watch the work. I'm not a paid creator. You watching my videos probably won't help me tip the scales. I wish it would, because I've done a lot of work. I've done so much work. It's incredible. It took me a long time. And now it's up to you to be able to know your karma, to heal your shadow, and to make it through. And in the end, you get a heart review, and I give you your keys, and you make it through the gates that I opened. For the new earth is the heaven of God. It is the creation of God, and it is all a Garden of Eden. All darkness will now fall. So much love to you all. Have a very beautiful day, and I will see you soon, hopefully.